Hey everybody, it is so beautiful outside. I thought we would do our reading outside today. So everybody grab your Anne Frank book and we are going to start reading on page 209. We're starting with the entry dated Saturday, the 15th of April, 1944. Okay, so in the last section that we read, we were reading about them being broken into again. So again, we are on page 209 in Diary of Anne Frank. Have a pen, be ready to mark key points as I read. And anyway, I hope you will take some time to enjoy the outdoors like I'm doing. Maybe grab your book, come out here and read. Of course, I guess it'd be hard for you to watch the video with us doing that. So page 209. Dear Kitty, shock upon shock, will there ever be an end? We honestly can ask ourselves that question now. Guess what's the latest? Peter forgot to unbolt the door, which is bolted on the inside at night, and the lock of the other door doesn't work. The result was that Kraler and the men could not get into the house, so he went to the neighbors, forced open the kitchen window, and entered the building from the back. He is livid at us for being so stupid. I can tell you it's upset Peter frightfully. At one meal, when Mommy said she felt more sorry for Peter than anyone else, he almost started to cry. We're all just as much to blame as he is, because nearly every day the men ask whether the door's been unbolted, and just today, no one did. Perhaps I shall be able to console him a bit later on. I would love so to help him. So make sure you mark that Peter forgot to bolt the door from the inside. Sunday morning, just before 11 o'clock, 16th of April, 1944. Darlingest Kitty, remember yesterday's date, for it is a very important day in my life. Surely it is a great day for every girl when she receives her first kiss. Well then, it is just as important for me too. Brahms' kiss on my right cheek doesn't count anymore. Likewise, the one from Mr. Walker on my right hand. How did I suddenly come by this kiss? Well, I will tell you. Yesterday evening at 8 o'clock, I was sitting with Peter on his divan. It wasn't long before his arm went around me. Let's move up a bit, I said, then I don't bump my head against the cupboard. He moved up almost into the corner. I laid my arm under his and across his back, and he just about buried me because his arm was hanging on my shoulder. Now, we've sat like this on other occasions, but never so close together as yesterday. He held me firmly against him, my left shoulder against his chest. Already my heart began to beat faster, but we had not finished yet. He didn't rest until my head was on his shoulder and his against it. When I sat upright again, after about 5 minutes, he soon took my head in his hands and laid it against him once more. Oh, it was so lovely I couldn't talk much. The joy was too great. He stroked my cheek and arm a bit awkwardly, played with my curls, and our heads lay touching most of the time. I can't tell you, Kitty, the feeling that ran through me all the while. I was too happy for words, and I believe he was as well. We got up at 8:30. Peter put on his gym shoes so that when he toured the house, he wouldn't make a noise, and I stood beside him. How it came about so suddenly, I don't know, but before we went downstairs, he kissed me through my hair, half on my left cheek, half on my ear. I tore downstairs without looking around and am simply longing for today. So you definitely want to mark that Anne got her first kiss from Peter. We are on page 211. Monday, the 17th of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, do you think that Daddy and Mommy would approve of my sitting and kissing a boy on a divan? A boy of 17 and a half, and I, girl, just of under 15? I don't really think they would, but I must rely on myself on this. It is so quiet and peaceful to lie in his arms and to dream. It is so thrilling to feel his cheek against mine. It is so lovely to know that there is someone waiting for me. But there is indeed a big but, because will Peter be content to leave it at this? I haven't forgotten his promise already, but he is a boy. I know myself that I'm starting very soon, not even 15, and so independent lately. It's certainly hard for other people to understand. I know almost for certain that Margot would never kiss a boy unless there had been some talk of an engagement or marriage, but neither Peter nor I have anything like that in mind. I'm sure, too, that Mummy never touched a man before Daddy. What would my girlfriends say about it if they knew that I lay in Peter's arms, my heart against his chest, my head on his shoulder, and with his head against mine? Oh, Anne, how scandalous! But honestly, I don't think it is. We are shut up here, shut away from the world, in fear and anxiety, especially just lately. Why then should we who love each other remain apart? Why should we wait until we've reached a suitable age? Why should we bother? I have taken it upon myself to look after myself. He would never want to cause me sorrow or pain. Why shouldn't I follow the way my heart leads me if it makes us both unhappy? All the same, Kitty, I believe you can sense that I'm in doubt. I think it must be my honesty which rebels against doing anything on the sly. Do you think it's my duty to tell Daddy what I'm doing? Do you think we should share our secret with a third person? A lot of the beauty would be lost, but would my conscience feel happier? I will discuss it with him. Oh, yes, there's still so much I want to talk to him about, for I don't see the use of only just cuddling each other. To exchange our thoughts, that shows confidence and faith in each other. We would both be sure to profit by it. Yours, Anne. So we are on page 213. Tuesday, 18th of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, everything goes well here. Daddy just said that he definitely expects large-scale operations to take place before the 20th of May, both in Russia and Italy, and also in the West. I find it more and more difficult to imagine our liberation from here. So make sure you make a note of what her dad said about the war. Yesterday, Peter and I finally got down to our talk, which had already been put off for at least 10 days. I explained everything about girls to him and didn't hesitate to discuss the most intimate things. The evening ended by each giving the other a kiss, just about beside my mouth. It's really a lovely feeling. Perhaps I'll take my diary up there sometime to go more deeply into things for once. I don't get satisfaction out of lying in each other's arms day in, day out, and would so like to feel that he's the same. We are having a superb spring after our long, lingering winter. April is really glorious, not too hot and not too cold, with little showers now and then. Our chestnut tree is already quite greenish, and you can even see little blooms here and there. Ellie gave us a treat on Saturday by bringing 4 bunches of flowers, 3 bunches of narcissus, and 1 of grape hyacinths, the latter being for me. I must do some algebra, Kitty. Goodbye, yours, Anne. We are now on page 214, Wednesday, the 19th of April, 1944. My darling, is there anything more beautiful in the world than to sit before an open window and enjoy nature, to listen to the birds singing, feel the sun on your cheeks, and have a darling boy in your arms? It is so soothing and peaceful to feel his arms around me, to know that he is close by and yet to remain silent. It can't be bad, for this tranquility is good. Oh, never to be disturbed again, not even by Mushi. Yours, Anne. Friday, the 21st of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, yesterday afternoon I was lying in bed with a sore throat, but since I was already bored on the first day and did not have a temperature, I got up again today. It's the 18th birthday of Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth of York. Y'all, that's the same age that she became Queen Elizabeth. She's the one who is still Queen today in England. Yet, though it's usually the case, the BBC has said that she will not be declared of age yet, though it's usually the case with royal children. We have been asking ourselves what prince this beauty is going to marry, but cannot think of anyone suitable. Perhaps her sister, Princess Margaret Rose, can have Prince Baldwin of Belgium one day. And we know who she married and is still married to her husband. They've been married faithfully. Here we are, having one misfortune after another. Scarcely had the outside doors been strengthened than the warehouse men appeared again. In all probability, it was he who stole the potato mill and wants to put the blame on Ellie's shoulders. The whole secret annex is understandably het up again. Ellie is beside herself with anger. So you do need to make a note about what happened with the warehouse man. I want to send in to some paper or other to see if they will take one of my stories, under a pseudonym, of course. Till next time, darling, yours Anne. If you don't remember what a pseudonym is, mark that word. A pseudonym is when you use a different name than your own name. A lot of books have been that way. For instance, The Outsiders, the author's name was not S.E. Hinton, but she used the pseudonym S.E. Hinton because they advised her of that, saying that because a lot of boys might be interested in reading this book, they probably wouldn't take it seriously if a book about gangs was written by a woman. So she actually changed her name to S.E. That's a pseudonym. We are on 2:15, Tuesday, 25th of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, Dussel has not been on speaking terms with Van Dyne for 10 days just because, ever since the burglary, a whole lot of fresh security measures have been made that don't suit him. He maintains that Van Dyne has been shouting at him. Everything here happens upside down, he told me. I'm going to speak to your father about it. He is not supposed to sit in the office downstairs on Saturday afternoons and Sundays anymore, but he goes on doing it just the same. Van Dyne was furious, and father went downstairs to talk to him. Naturally, he kept on inventing excuses, but this time he could not get around even father. Father now talks to him as little as possible, as Dussel has insulted him. None of us know in what way, but it must have been very bad. I have written a lovely story called Blur the Explorer, which pleased the three to whom I read it very much. Thursday, the 27th of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, Mrs. Van Dyne is in such a bad mood this morning, nothing but complaints. First, there's her cold, and she can't get any lozenges, and so much nose blowing is unendurable. Next, it's that the sun's not shining, that the invasion doesn't come, that we can't look out of the windows, etc., etc. We all had to laugh at her, and she was sporting enough to join in. At the moment, I'm reading The Emperor Charles V, written by a professor at Göttingen University. He worked at the book for 40 years. I read 50 pages in 5 days. It's impossible to do more. The book has 598 pages, so now you can work out how long it will take me. And there's a second volume to follow, but very interesting. What doesn't a schoolgirl get to know in a single day? Take me, for example. First, I translated a piece from Dutch into English about Nelson's last battle. After that, I went through some more of Peter the Great's war against Norway, Charles XII, Augustus the Strong, Stanislav's, Lezinski, Mazeppa, von Gors, Brandenburg, Pomerania, and Denmark, plus the usual dates. You'll have to excuse me. I have not pre-read this before this moment, and some of these words I kind of stumble on. After that, I landed up in Brazil, read about Bahia, tobacco, the abundance of coffee, and the 1.5 million inhabitants of Rio de Janeiro, of Pernambuco and Sao Paulo, not forgetting the river Amazon, about Negroes, mulattoes, mestizos, whites, more than 50% of the population being illiterate, and the malaria. As there was still some time left, I quickly ran through a family tree. Jan the Elder, William Lodvig, Ernst Casimir I, Andrik Casimir I, right up to the little Margaret Francisca, born in 1943 in Ottawa. 12 o'clock. In the attic, I continued my program with the story of the church. Whew! Till 1 o'clock. Just after 2, the poor child sat working. Again, this time studying narrow and broad-nosed monkeys. Kitty, tell me quickly how many toes a hippopotamus has. Then followed the Bible, Noah and the Ark, Shem, Ham, Japheth. After that, Charles V. Then with Peter, the Colonel in English by Thackeray, heard my French verbs and then compared the Mississippi with the Missouri. I've still got a cold, and I've given it to Margot as well as to Mommy and Daddy, as long as Peter doesn't get it. He called me his El Dorado and wanted a kiss. Of course I couldn't, funny boy, but still he's a darling. Enough for today. Goodbye. Yours, Anne. So guys, can you imagine reading all of the things that Anne has read? We've talked about before the level of reading that she was on that even kind of makes kids today seem unintelligent almost compared to the reading that kids went through at that time period. A lot of the vocabulary we talked about was so advanced then compared to the vocabulary that most of the books that you read today contain. We are on page 217, Friday, the 28th of April, 1944. Dear Kitty, I've never gotten my dream about Peter Wessel. See the beginning of January. If I think of it, I can still feel his cheek against mine now and recall that lovely feeling that made everything good. Sometimes I've even had the same feeling here with Peter, but never to such an extent until yesterday when we were, as usual, sitting on the divan, our arms around each other's waists. Then suddenly the ordinary Anne slipped away and the second Anne took her place. A second Anne who is not reckless and jocular, but one who just wants to love and be gentle. I sat pressed closely against him and felt a wave of emotion come over me. Tears sprang into my eyes. The left one trickled onto his dungarees. The right one ran down my nose and also fell onto his dungarees. Did he notice? He made no move or sign to show that he did. I wonder if he feels the same as I do. He hardly said a word. Does he know that he has two Annes before him? These questions must remain unanswered. At 8:30, I stood up and went to the window, where we always say goodbye. I was still trembling. I was still Anne number 2. He came towards me. I flung my arms around his neck and gave him a kiss on his left cheek and was about to kiss the other cheek when my lips met his and we pressed them together. In a whirl, we were clasped in each other's arms again and again, never to leave off. Oh, Peter does so need tenderness. For the first time in his life, he has discovered a girl who has seen for the first time that even the most irritating girls have another side to them, that they have hearts and can be different when you are alone with them. For the first time in his life, he has given of himself and, having never had a boy or girlfriend in his life before, shown his real self. Now we have found each other. For that matter, I didn't even know him either. Like him having never had a trusted friend. And this is what it has come to. So I would just make a note that we've said that Anne has discussed. She has two sides to her. You know, she's got the irritating, obnoxious one. Sorry about that. And then she's got the caring one, the really loving one that wants to reach out and to help Peter. So that's what she means by the two different sides of Anne. Once more, there's a question which gives me no peace. Is it right? Is it right that I should have yielded so soon, that I am so ardent, just as ardent and eager as Peter himself? May I, a girl, let myself go to this extent? There is but one answer. I have longed so much, and for so long, I am so lonely, and now I have found consolation. In the mornings, we just behave in an ordinary way. In the afternoons, more or less so, except just occasionally. But in the evenings, the suppressed longings of the whole day, the happiness and the blissful memories of all the previous occasions come to the surface, and we only think of each other. Every evening after the last kiss, I would like to dash away, not to look into his eyes any more. Away, away, alone in the darkness. And what do I have to face when I reach the bottom of the staircase? Bright lights, questions, and laughter. I have to swallow it all and not show a thing. My heart still feels too much. I can't get over a shock, such as I received yesterday all at once. The Anne, who is gentle, shows herself too little anyway, and therefore will not allow herself to be suddenly driven into the background. Peter has touched my emotions more deeply than anyone has ever done before, except in my dreams. Peter has taken possession of me and turned me inside out. Surely it goes without saying that anyone who would require a rest and a little while to recover from such an upheaval. Oh, Peter, what have you done to me? What do you want of me? Where will this lead us? Oh, now I understand Ellie. Now that I'm going through this myself, now I understand her doubt. If I were older and he should ask me to marry him, what should I answer? And be honest, you would not be able to marry him, but yet it would be hard to let him go. Peter hasn't enough character yet, not enough willpower, too little courage and strength. He is still a child in his heart of hearts. He is no older than I am. He is only searching for tranquility and happiness. Am I only 14? Am I really still a silly little schoolgirl? Am I really so inexperienced about everything? I have more experience than most. I have been through things that hardly any one of my age has undergone. I am afraid of myself. I am afraid that in my longing, I am giving myself too quickly. How, later on, can it ever go right with other boys? Oh, it is so difficult, always battling with one's heart and reason. In its own time, each will speak. But do I know for certain that I have chosen the right time? Yours, Anne. Tuesday, the 2nd of May, 1944. And just to keep you up to date, we are on page 219. Dear Kitty, on Saturday evening, I asked Peter whether he thought I ought to tell Daddy a bit about us. When we discussed it a little, he came to the conclusion that I should. I was glad, for it shows that he's an honest boy. As soon as I get downstairs, I went off with Daddy to get some water. And while we were on the stairs, I said, Daddy, I expect you've gathered that when we're together, Peter and I don't sit miles apart. Do you think it's wrong? Daddy didn't reply immediately, then said, No, I don't think it's wrong, but you must be careful, Anne. You're in such a confined space here. When we were upstairs, he said something else on the same lines. On Sunday morning, he called me to him and said, Anne, I have thought more about what you said. I felt scared already. It's not really right here in this house. I thought that you were just pals. Is Peter in love? And you can see what the father's thinking, because a lot of times, let's say, if they were outside of these confined spaces, would they really fall in love the way she thinks they have? And being in the situation that they are in, sometimes you will feel feelings for people, and then if you totally got out of that situation, you would not feel that way anymore. So the father is just saying, be careful before you give of yourself to him, because it's just a different situation right now. So again, he said, it's not really right here in this house. I thought you were just pals. Is Peter in love? Anne says, oh, of course not, I replied. You know that I understand both of you, but you must be the one to hold back. Don't go upstairs so often. Don't encourage him more than you can help. It is the man who is always the active one in these things. The woman can hold him back. It is quite different under normal circumstances when you are free. You see other boys and girls. You can get away sometimes, play games, and do all kinds of other things. But here, if you're together a lot and you want to get away, you can't. You see each other every hour of the day. In fact, all the time. Be careful, Anne, and don't take it too seriously. I don't, Daddy, but Peter's a decent boy, really a nice boy. Yes, but he is not a strong character. He can be easily influenced for good, but also for bad. I hope for this sake that his good side will remain uppermost, because by nature that is how he is. We talked on for a bit and agreed that Daddy should talk to him too. It sounds like Anne's father is giving her great wisdom. On Sunday morning in the attic, he asked, And have you talked to your father, Anne? Yes, I replied. I'll tell you about it. Daddy doesn't think it's bad, but he says that here we're so close together all the time, clashes may easily arise. But we agreed, didn't we, never to quarrel, and I'm determined to stick to it. So will I, Peter, but Daddy didn't think that it was like this. He just thought we were pals. Do you think that we still can be? I can. What about you? Me too. I told Daddy that I trusted you. I do trust you, Peter, just as much as I trust Daddy, and I believe you to be worthy of it. You are, aren't you, Peter? I hope so. He was very shy and rather red in the face. I believe in you, Peter, I went on. I believe that you have good qualities and that you'll get on in the world. And after that, we talked about other things. Later, I said, if we come out of here, I know quite well that you won't bother about me anymore. He flared right up. That's not true, Anne. Oh, no, I won't let you think that of me. Then I was called away. Daddy has talked to him. He told me about it today. Your father thought that the friendship might develop into love sooner or later, he said. But I replied that we would keep a check on ourselves. Daddy doesn't want me to go upstairs so much in the evenings now, but I don't want that. Not only because I like being with Peter. I have told him that I trust him. I do trust him, and I want to show him that I do, which can't happen if I stay downstairs through lack of trust. No, I'm going. In the meantime, the Dussel drama has righted itself again. At supper on Saturday evening, he apologized in beautiful Dutch. Van Daan was nice about it straight away. It must have taken Dussel a whole day to learn that little lesson off by heart. I would make a note, guys, that of what Pam's dad said to Anne, that she needs to be careful because they are in a confined space, and that she needs to not, let's say, get too close to Peter. Not that he doesn't trust Peter, he does. But just again, being in these confined spaces, sometimes you can end up doing things that you would regret. And he's just saying that she needs to be careful. So we're at the bottom of 221. Sunday, his birthday, passed peacefully. We gave him a bottle of good 1919 wine from the Vandans, who could give their presents now after all. A bottle of piccalilli and a packet of razor blades, a jar of lemon jam from Kraler, a book, Little Martin from Meep, and a plant from Ellie. He treated each one of us to an egg. Yours, Anne. So just make a note that they did celebrate Dussel's birthday, okay? On page 222, Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 1944. Dear Kitty, just the news of the week. We're having a holiday from politics. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to announce. I, too, am gradually beginning to believe that the invasion will come. After all, they can't let the Russians clear up everything. For that matter, they're not doing anything either at the moment. Mr. Kufis comes to the office every morning again now. He's got a new spring for Peter's divan, so Peter will have to do some upholstering, about which, quite understandably, he doesn't feel a bit happy. Have I told you that Boshi has disappeared? Simply vanished? We haven't seen a sight of her since Thursday of last week. I expect she's already in the cat's heaven, while some animal lover is enjoying a succulent meal from her. Ooh. So you might make a note about Boshi. Perhaps some little girl will be given a fur cap out of her skin. Peter is very sad about it. Ooh. Since Saturday, we've changed over and have lunch at 11:30 in the morning, so we have to last out with 1 cupful of porridge. This saves us a meal. Vegetables are still very difficult to obtain. We had rotten boiled lettuce this afternoon. Ooh. Ordinary lettuce, spinach, and boiled lettuce. There's nothing else. With these, we eat rotten potatoes. So it's a delicious combination. You know she's being sarcastic. So I might make a note of what they're having to eat right now. As you can easily imagine, we often ask ourselves here despairingly, what is the use of the war? Why can't people live peacefully together? Why all this destruction? The question is very understandable, but no one has found a satisfactory answer to it so far. Yes, why do they make still more gigantic planes, still heavier bombs, and at the same time prefabricated houses for reconstruction? Why should millions be spent daily on the war? And yet there's not a penny available for medical services, artists, or for poor people. Why do some people have to starve while there are surpluses rotting in other parts of the world? Oh, why are people so crazy? I don't believe that the big men, the politicians, and the capitalists alone are guilty of the war. Oh no, the little man is just as guilty, otherwise the peoples of the world would have risen in revolt long ago. So basically she's saying that that a lot of people aren't guilty for rising up against what was going on to start with, and maybe all of this destruction wouldn't have taken place. There's in people simply an urge to destroy, an urge to kill, to murder and rage. And until all mankind, without exception, undergoes a great change, wars will be waged. Everything that has been built up, cultivated, and grown will be destroyed and disfigured, after which mankind will have to begin all over again. I have often been downcast, but never in despair. I regard our hiding as a dangerous adventure, romantic and interesting at the same time. In my diary, I treat all the privations as amusing. I have made up my mind now to lead a different life from other girls, and later on different from ordinary housewives. My start has been so very full of interest, and that is the sole reason why I have to laugh at the humorous side of the most dangerous moments. I mean, what else can you do? You can't just sit around in despair the whole time or you'll give up hope. It's kind of like the situation going on with the COVID virus. We know we're going to get past this, and granted, what we're going through is nothing compared to what Anne went through. And we know the outcome for them. But instead of sitting around being depressed that we don't really go anywhere, maybe just feel happy that we're with our families more. Hey, that we can do school in our casual clothing, that we can go outside in our backyards whenever we want to and just enjoy the glory that God's given us instead of being trapped in a classroom at this time or in our job. So we all will be eager for the time we can return to normal But instead of being negative about the things we can't do, be positive about all the opportunities that we're being given right now. We're at the bottom of 223. I am young and I possess many buried qualities. I am young and strong and am living a great adventure. I am still in the midst of it and can't grumble the whole day long. I've been given a lot, a happy nature, a great deal of cheerfulness and strength. Every day I feel that I am developing inwardly, that the liberation is drawing near, and how beautiful nature is, how good the people are about me, how interesting this adventure is. Why then should I be in despair? Yours, Anne. I love it when she speaks like this. She kind of lifts all of our spirits. We are on 224, Friday, the 5th of May, 1944. Dear Kitty, Daddy is not pleased with me. He thought that after our talk on Sunday, I automatically wouldn't go upstairs every evening. He doesn't want any necking. A word I can't bear. It was bad enough talking about it. Why must he make it so unpleasant now? I shall talk to him today. Margot is giving me some good advice, so listen, this is roughly what I want to say. I believe, Daddy, that you expect a declaration from me, so I will give it to you. You were disappointed in me as you had expected more reserve from me, and I suppose you want me to be just as a 14-year-old should be. But that's where you're mistaken. Since we've been here from July 1942 until a few weeks ago, I can assure you that I haven't had any easy time. If you only knew how I cried in the evenings, how unhappy I was, how lonely I felt, then you would understand that I want to go upstairs. I have now reached the stage that I can live entirely on my own, without Mummy's support or anyone else's for that matter. But it hasn't just happened in a night. It's been a bitter, hard struggle, and I've shed many a tear before I became as independent as I am now. You can laugh at me and not believe me, but that can't harm me. I know that I'm a separate individual, and I don't feel in the least bit responsible to any of you. I am only telling you this because I thought that otherwise you might think that I was underhand. I'm sorry. But I don't have to give an account of my deeds to anyone but myself. When I was in difficulties, you all closed your eyes and stopped your ears and didn't help me. On the contrary, I received nothing but warnings not to be so boisterous. I was only boisterous so as not to be miserable all the time. I was reckless so as not to hear the persistent voice within me continually. I played a comedy for 1.5 years, day in and day out. I never grumbled, never lost my cue, nothing like that. And now the battle is over. I have won. I am independent both in mind and body. I don't need a mother anymore, for all this conflict has made me strong. And now that I'm on top of it, now that I know that I fought the battle, now I want to be able to go on in my own way too. The way that I think is right. You can't and mustn't regard me as 14, for all these troubles have made me older. I shall not be sorry for what I have done, but shall act as I think I can. You can't coax me into not going upstairs. Either you forbid it, or you trust me through thick and thin, but then leave me in peace as well. Yours, Anne. Saturday, 6th of May, 1944. Dear Kitty, I put a letter in which I wrote that I explained to you yesterday in Daddy's pocket before supper yesterday. After reading it, he was, according to Margot, very upset for the rest of the evening. I was upstairs doing the dishes. Poor Pim. I might have known what the effect of such an epistle would be. He is so sensitive. I immediately told Peter not to ask or say anything more. Pim hasn't said any more about it to me. Is that yet in store, I wonder? So do make a note that she did give her dad a letter about what she was thinking about her being independent now and not needing anyone. We're on 226. Here, everything is going on more or less normally again. What they tell us about the prices and the people outside is almost unbelievable. Half a pound of tea costs 350 florins. And notice it says down at the bottom of your book there that a florin is equal to approximately 28 cents. So you can imagine 28 cents times 350. So you can get a calculator and figure that out. A pound of coffee is 80 florins. Butter is 35 florins per pound. An egg, 1.45 florin. People pay 14 florins for an ounce of Bulgarian tobacco. Everyone deals in the black market. Every errand boy has something to offer. Our baker's boy got hold of some sewing silk. 0.9 florin for a thin little skein. The milkman manages to get clandestine ration cards. The undertaker delivers the cheese. Burglaries, murders, and theft go on daily. The police and night watchmen join in just as strenuously as the professionals. Everyone wants something in their empty stomachs, and because wage increases are forbidden, the people simply have to swindle. The police are continually on the go, tracing girls of 15, 16, 17, and older who are reported missing every day. Oh, that's terrible. So you need to put that prices have increased. The wages that people are earning cannot go any higher. So basically, there's more stealing. Also noticed that these girls of 15, 16, 17, and older are missing. And you can just imagine what might have happened to them and why they're missing. Sunday morning, 7th of May, 1944. Dear Kitty, Daddy and I had a long talk yesterday afternoon. I cried terribly and he joined in. Do you know what he said to me, Kitty? I've received many letters in my life, but this one is certainly the most unpleasant. You, Anne, who have received such love from your parents, you who have parents who are always ready to help you, who have always defended you, whatever it might be, can you talk of feeling no responsibility towards us? You feel wronged and deserted. No, Anne, you have done us a great injustice. Perhaps you didn't mean it like that, but it is what you wrote. No, Anne, we haven't deserved such a reproach as this. So her father's very upset with her. Oh, I have failed miserably. This is certainly the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I was only trying to show off with my crying and my tears, just trying to appear big so that he would respect me. Certainly, I've had a lot of unhappiness, but to accuse the good Pim, who has done and still does do everything for me, no, that was too low for words. It's right that for once I've been taken down from my inaccessible pedestal, that my pride has been shaken a bit, for I was becoming much too taken up with myself again. What Miss Anne does is by no means always right. Anyone who can cause such unhappiness to someone else, someone who professes to love and on purpose too, is low, very low. And the way Daddy has forgiven me makes me feel more than ever ashamed of myself. He is going to throw the letter in the fire and is so sweet to me now, just as if he had done something wrong. No, Anne, you still have a tremendous lot to learn. Begin by doing that first, instead of looking down on others and accusing them. So here the father has forgiven her and he's ended up being gentle with her. He did reproach her, but now she's kind of understanding his side and she feels terribly guilty because remember, she loves her father a great deal and she hates to hurt him. I've had a lot of sorrow, but who hasn't at my age? I have played the clown a lot too, but I was hardly conscious of it. I felt lonely, but hardly ever in despair. I ought to be deeply ashamed of myself, and indeed I am. What is done cannot be underdone, but one can prevent it happening again. I want to start from the beginning again, and it can't be difficult now that I have Peter. With him to support me, I can and will. I'm not alone anymore. He loves me. I love him. I have my books, my storybook, and my diary. I'm not so frightfully ugly, not utterly stupid, have a cheerful temperament, and want to have a good character. Yes, Anne, you felt deeply that your letter was too hard and that it was untrue. To think that you were even proud of it. I will take Daddy as my example and I will improve. So make a note that Anne feels badly and that she's determined that she will improve her personality, basically, the kind of person she is. We are on 228.